Hello, welcome to my video. This one's entitled The Myth of Mankind's Creation and the Suffering of Prometheus. So this is kind of continuing my little series on myths and my discussion and analysis of them. This one is about Prometheus. Prometheus was a titan in Greek mythology. He was the god of forethought and crafty counsel. And interesting, he had a twin brother called Epimetheus. So kind of twins, opposites. Prometheus was foresight, forethought. Epimetheus was afterthought, hindsight. So that was interesting. And Prometheus was charged with the creation of man, molding man from the clay of the earth. That's intriguing simply because the connection to the biblical Genesis creation myth of man was created by the dust of the earth. And there's all kinds of other myths about the creation of man from clay, which I didn't realize it was really a worldwide type of myth going all over the place. Which I thought was quite interesting. So Prometheus and Epimetheus, they were to distribute the gifts from the gods to the creatures of the earth. And I guess Epimetheus gave all the physical abilities to the animals. And all that, what was left over was what Prometheus could give to mankind, which was forethought, which was intelligence, which was craftiness, cunning, our adaptability, our ability to reason, right? So that was interesting. Now, the way the story goes is that I guess there was some sort of sacrificial feast that was going to happen, or that was between the gods, the Greek gods like Zeus and Hera and all the other gods, and mankind. So Prometheus had sacrificed an ox and had prepared two platters and was going to let Zeus decide who would get what portion of the animal at this feast, at this settling of accounts. And I don't know where the big dispute was. Like the Greek gods in my mind are projections from our unconscious, like kind of like the archetypes, and they definitely can rule. In ancient times, people feared the gods. We were the playthings of the gods in those myths. Now, at this sacrificial feast, Prometheus prepares these two platters, and on one platter he puts all the choice cuts of meat, but covers it with the stomach of the ox. And then on the other platter he puts all the bones, but covers it in fat. And he presents these to Zeus. Zeus picks the one with the fat because, the stomach is undesirable. So, and it looked unsightly. So he saw this glistening fat. He's like, "Yeah, I want that platter." But he gets the platter, and then underneath all the just bones. And so now, what was interesting is after this division of the animal, humans would keep meat for themselves and burn the bones wrapped in fat as a burnt offering to the gods. Now, what's interesting about this is that so to make soap you need fat and lye. And lye can be extracted out from ashes by filtering water through ashes, and the result is lye. And so we have this ritual of animal hunting and killing an animal and then burning the bones and the fat. Now, what I'm making a leap here, but what it seems to me is like you're basically creating like a soap-like substance, whatever's left over from that fire with all that fat burning. There's got to be like some pasty, fatty, ashy residue that now if people like put this over their body as kind of like a further ritual and then washed it off, it would kind of have the effect of cleaning you with soap in a way. And so I don't know, I just thought that was interesting. Like that could, and then if that actually did clean you, then the people who performed that ritual had a better chance of survival or being free from disease or infection, let's say, right? Because if you had cuts on you and then you're covered in this soapy ash, I guess, and then you clean yourself off, you have less of a risk of getting infection on those cuts. Yeah, so I don't know. I mean, that was just interesting to me. And then also the thing about the creation of man from clay being a worldwide myth, it just seems to me as being very, very old. So Zeus is angry that he got cheated by the plate of bones and fat. And so he decides to withhold the secret of fire from mankind. And since man doesn't have the natural protections of the animals or natural adaptations to the environment that animals do, like fur and the ability to dig and burrow and create their own dens underground, I guess, to ride out the winter, Prometheus, using his foresight, saw that mankind would be suffering or die during the winter without fire. So he goes behind Zeus's back and he steals fire from the gods and brings it to man in one story said a dried giant fennel stalk. And I forget where I read it. I'll include references to places that I found this information. But one story goes that he had to kind of keep the fennel stalk like moving a little bit to keep the ember inside of it alive and not burn out, which that was interesting. So now Zeus is further pissed off, right? And so after this, they chain Prometheus to a rock, and a eagle, which is a symbol of Zeus, comes and eats his liver every day. The liver regrows at night, and then the next day the torment continues. The eagle comes back. So in this way, Prometheus is suffering eternally. He is eventually freed in some other story with Hercules or Heracles down the road, but it's a long time, I guess. Now, what was interesting is that was Prometheus's punishment, and to punish mankind, Zeus, and with the help of the other gods, they fashion a woman out of clay. At one account, she's called Pandora, but in one account, from her is the race of women and female kind. Of her is the deadly race and tribe of women who live amongst mortal men to their great trouble. No helpmeets in hateful poverty, but only in wealth. So this is like a reference, thousands year old reference to hypergamy. Hypergamy is is marrying or going into a relationship purely for wealth or status. So this is a reference to hypergamous women from thousands of years ago, which I thought was hilarious. And they use the phrase helpmeets, which goes back to Genesis, and it kind of means like equal partner, like not like a servant type of thing, but more like equal partner in life, kind of like this conjunction of opposites, like Prometheus and Epimetheus, soulmate almost, right? Yeah, so that was kind of interesting. Now there's with Prometheus being chained to the rock forever. There's some other interesting aspects to this, and relations to the Bible, which I thought was quite fascinating. Which kind of makes me think that the origination of this myth is very, very ancient. Who knows? I'm not a Greek scholar or historian, but I just find these things really interesting. So with the liver, we've actually discovered, like in modern times, that the liver is the only organ that can regenerate itself. And yet we have this account from ancient Greece, and so some people have theorized that the Greeks may have actually known this, which is kind of quite amazing. I mean, if they were aware of this ability of the liver to regenerate it, I mean, how were they aware of this unless there was somehow you had to have someone had. If that's true, if they knew, then at some point someone had to have an open wound or some wound you could kind of look in and like, oh, it's growing back, right? I don't know. Maybe they would take the burnt offering and like, oh, the gods will heal it, right? Yeah, who knows? Now, some of the other similarities that people have made to Prometheus and Jesus is that in the Bible, Jesus is mercifully like killed with a spear in his side. Prometheus is tormented by an eagle eating his liver from his side, which I thought was interesting. The eagle also is a symbol of Zeus. So, like I see these stories as being these ancient myths and these Greek gods as projections from the unconscious. So, Prometheus made the ultimate sacrifice for the betterment of mankind, to help people. He has taken on the suffering from the gods, like he is the container of the suffering. Well, I mean, if you discount the whole thing with Pandora, and also the liver was thought to be the seat of human emotions in ancient Greece, also the seat of the soul and intelligence. So here we have this eagle, Zeus, coming down from the every day, coming down and eating the liver, eating the soul, which is interesting. The other one person, I think it was Milton, made a connection, or that Lucifer, Satan, Lucifer means light bringer. I didn't realize this. And so Prometheus, there's kind of a corollary here in that, Prometheus took light from Mount Olympus, from the heavens, and he brought it down to mankind as a gift. So it's interesting to me. Not saying that, Prometheus in all these myths, he is a great benefactor to man. He's given him the gifts of fire, but also intelligence and all these other gifts. But Prometheus got gets back at Zeus in a way, because I guess there was some prophecy that Zeus would have a child with a woman that would grow up to kill Zeus. And since Prometheus had the power of foresight, he knew who the woman was that Zeus was going to have this child with. But he refused to tell Zeus, and so Zeus kept the torment up. So this is a very interesting myth. I think there's a lot more going on here, and I'm probably missing a lot of interesting metaphors here that if I took more time to analyze it, maybe I would have more insights. But so I hope you enjoyed this quick little talk about Prometheus. And then his suffering, right? Like there on the rock, Jesus suffering on the cross. Like there is some interesting connection there. And the other connection that I read too about Prometheus and the Bible anyway was Prometheus has a son, Deucalion, or I'm not pronouncing it right. And I think this son angers the gods in some way, and they send a great deluge to wipe him out or wipe his city out. And under the direction or the advice of Prometheus, he builds a ark or a boat to preserve him and his family and life and survive after the flood, which again goes back to the flood myth in Genesis, which was interesting. These connections, more connections that make me think that this myth about Prometheus is very, very ancient. So anyway, that's kind of covers it. Anyway, just interesting thoughts, very illuminating, thinking about how mankind, what it meant to get fire, right? Like how long ago did we have fire? I really don't know. I think it's hundreds and hundreds of thousands of years. So, yeah, how old are the stories of how mankind got fire, right? I don't know. And then the creation of man from clay. In the Egyptian Khnum, the god, he creates human children from clay before placing them into their mother's wombs, but he creates them on a pot. He creates them on a potter's wheel, and that's interesting too. Like, a pot, a vase, like creating a pot or a vase on a potter's wheel. It's a vessel, right? So, but what's inside the vessel? It can be basically anything. I mean, it's empty and then it's filled with stuff, right? There's potentiality in the empty vessel. And there's all this potentiality in mankind as well. And then the shaping of mankind, the molding of man from earth, right? So, I mean, trees grow in the earth, so fire being so critical to our survival, crops, growing different crops in the soil, in the earth, and man knew, it doesn't grow in here in this type of soil, but it grows in this type of soil. So the good earth or I don't know, man. There's a lot of different interesting connections with all that. Anyway, all right, that's all for now. Anyway, hope you enjoyed. Please like, subscribe, leave me comments if you'd like me to analyze a myth in my own way. I have Patreon. You can support me there. All right, take care.